day, everybody. It is Calxiyn here, and thank you for attending Calxyn's Royal Court today, where we have gathered to discuss ODDTAXI episode 11. I'm going to be doing my reaction highlights and my discussion, but before we get into it, let me remind you all that you should subscribe to get notified about when I post an ODDTAXI video. You will not want to miss my reaction to like this ending and all of this sort of stuff. We only have 11, 12, and 13 left, and I can't believe it. Like, I feel like that I've been doing this, like, for such a long time, and I have, right? I started in July. Right now, as of when I'm recording, it's August, but I think by the time you guys are seeing this, it may be October or something. Oh, and that brings me to the next thing, which is if you guys want to see early access stuff, as well as my full-length timer and subtitle reactions, you can check out the Patreon if you want to see those early and kind of like binge watch like the rest of the show with me, this like tail end experience, all that fun stuff. And then finally, join our Discord server to talk with us about ODDTAXI, or just like talk to me in general. Without further ado, let us just get into it. See? Damn. See, I think Mitsuya may have been better than her. Oh, but she passed. Oh. I guess that's how she met Baba, though. Oh. Damn, wow, she just dragged his ass. Oh my god, Jesus Christ. Oh man. Oh, he's given up. Oh, so he's just not concerned about success. It's like whatever happens, happens, you know? But yeah, I mean, like a good way to look at things sometimes is like not to worry, you know? Oh. So she saw he was very kind-hearted, right? Oh, but something went wrong. Some memories. Oh, but she's dead, right? Like this Mitsuya's dead, you know what I mean? See, they wanted Mitsuya to be the center, not Rui. Uh-oh, is that why Rui killed her? Oh no. Bro, she didn't deserve murder. Y'all could have still been successful. You just could have been in the background, sis. Take a taxi. No! No, 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 no. Oh. Oh, she was only gonna make a request. Oh my god, Jesus Christ. So did she kill her? Or did someone get to her already before Rui did? Maybe Rui didn't do it. But then Rui didn't want to tell anyone because they would think that she did it. Oh, so, oh, I was wrong. Rui didn't kill her. Damn, she planned to kill her, but she didn't get the chance. Somebody else did it first. Oh, so they didn't do it, but they just got rid of her? So she was planning to do it though. Rui has the murder bones. You know what I mean? Okay, so the boss's classmate's daughter isn't this Mitsuya, because this Mitsuya's family agreed to everything. It is the dead Mitsuya. Damn. See, because she didn't dance as well. I knew that, right? Because, like, didn't you guys remember that I said that, oh, her dancing's getting sloppy, and I said that's because the old girl would have been fine. You know what I mean? The old girl was a better dancer. Oh my god, I'm so glad that I... Wait. What if she killed her? So she did it. So she killed her. Yeah, it must have been. You know what I'm saying? So what if she did it? She killed the girl that looked most like her, right? Since her father is famous. So it must be Don Ranku. Like I said, right? So that's why they've been looking for the dash cam data. Right! Don Ranku and the boss. So they blackmailed them? They blackmailed Don Ranku? Oh, that is Gouriki! I was right! Oh my god! So yeah, okay, so that girl, the dead girl, was his daughter. So that's that on that. Is it only because of Baba then that she didn't lose her mind? Oh. Oh. Oh no. But how are they going to explain this now? Because, like, she died 2 months ago, but fake Mitsuya has been pretending to be her. They're gonna have to do a press conference or something, bro. You know what I mean? Like, they need to admit that their Mitsuya's been fake. Wait, but if Yamamoto's not there, he won't tell him to check the other cases. Damn! Odokawa's plan fell apart! All the plans are falling apart! Yamamoto won't tell anybody to check the case! What? What? Oh, he hung up. But what if he did drive the fried chicken girl? And that's what it was. Oh, wait. I wish I could pause. What if the reason why he's confused is because he's saying the girl that died on the news isn't the girl I picked up in my taxi? I picked up Mitsuya, which means Mitsuya went to the talent agency and killed killed real Mitsuya. Fake Mitsuya was the one that got in the taxi. Because Odokawa said, wait a minute, that's not her. That's not the girl that Dobu showed me in the dash cam. And so what if the reason is because Odokawa never picked up Mitsuya? He picked up fake Mitsuya. And that means that fake Mitsuya killed real Mitsuya for the role. Oh, and so Imai seems kind of sad because he doesn't know Mystery Kiss as well as he thinks. Damn, see, Imai's getting disillusioned. Bro, what are y'all even gonna say, sis? Like, what is the plan here? You know what I mean? Oh yeah, we deceived you, sis. But you guys know what I mean? I need to write down the real name and I'll explain this better in my review. But basically, I think that Odokawa said, that's not her. That's not the girl I had in my taxi. It was actually fried chicken Mitsuya. If that makes sense. And so he drove the killer, basically. But real Mitsuya was driven by like another taxi and another person. Damn! Yeah, fuck you, Baba. Like, you know? He's only falling apart because you're like an asshole, you know what I'm saying? That may be true, actually. That may be true, I don't know. But aren't y'all doing the losers bracket, bro? Y'all can't split up right now. Fell in the sea! See? Oh my god, was I right? Odokawa is afraid of the water because he was with his parents. See? That's what I'm saying. That's why I have the visions. So after that, he started to see the world differently. Oh my god, my whole reborn theory. Was it really a double suicide, though? That's it! Come on, Yamamoto! Could have been a fan. See, I think he's trying to throw off the trail a little bit, right? I think it was her. I think it was fake Mitsuya did it. Uh-oh. I don't like that. What if this is what if this is little Daimon pretending to be big Daimon? Uh-oh. But he didn't. I'm assuming. See? It must have been the boss that was the benefactor. Okay, well that's interesting. Okay. Right? Okay. I'm so, like, scared. He saw everyone as animals, right? Why? What's in it, bro? Oh. So what's interesting about this one, guys, is that this says 11.10, which would imply to me that if I'm right about like what the points mean, is that this is like for episode 11. However, the point 10 would signify it takes place during episode 10's timeline. So not the episode that we just saw, so to speak, right? Yes, okay. So this is still taking place in the idol group area. See? But now Mitsuya has the pen, because she was the only one of the girls that didn't have it, was the implication, right? That Rui was like, I'm gonna give it to the only girl that hasn't gotten it yet, and that was Mitsuya, you know? Oh, man. Okay, so they're talking about Rui again. They think Rui did it. Well, that's interesting. That is true. That is true too. Okay. So that was Mitsuya. Oh, wait, what? So basically what I'm saying is that the last lie is either the couch casting or the plastic surgery, okay? And so that would leave us with basically like one lie per girl. The sticks was Mitsuya, okay? The marriage was Ichimura, and then let's just pretend that the plastic surgery or the couch casting like was the lie for Rui. It doesn't really matter. And then we would have the truths. I dumped a dead body, that's one of Rui's truths, right? And I'm dating a comedian should be one of the other truths. So I feel like with Rui, we basically got everything. Like, we got all of Rui so far, the ones that should be assigned to Rui. It should be, I dumped a dead body and I'm dating a comedian. Those should be the two secrets that Rui submitted that were truthful. That would mean that the couch casting one or the plastic surgery one could have been like one of Rui's lies, right? And so then when we go to like Ichimura, her two truths were the sugar daddy and then also the bad mouthing the group member on the internet. I think that that was Ichimura. I think that she did that, right? And so her lie, as she said, was marriage. That leaves us with three things. I killed someone, and then I'm doing couch casting or the plastic surgery, basically, because she said about the sticks. She said the sticks were a lie, right? And so by process of elimination, that would mean that it's either one of two things. The sticks was just the lie, right? She was just putting that out there, whatever. That would mean that the small truth would either be the couch casting or the plastic surgery. Now, we could say that the couch casting could actually fit more with Mitsuya, because what if she did it and that like is involved in the murder somehow? You know what I mean? That she like slept with someone and then that someone helped like carry out the murder and like covered up for her or something. Something like that, right? And so then if we go back to Rui, we could say that Rui's lie was the plastic surgery, right? Because Rui's two truths were the dumped a dead body and the comedian, okay? So I think that we basically like figured out like everything now. So the I'm doing couch casting could have been Mitsuya's truth, like her small truth, right? And then the I killed someone could have been Mitsuya's big truth, if that makes sense. And then like say again like the sticks, she was lying about the sticks. So you know what I mean? You understand what I'm saying? I may like make like a list or something, but basically like the ones that belong to Ichimura are the sugar daddy, the bad mouthing the group member, and then also the marriage, and the marriage was the fake one. The ones that belong to Rui were the comedian and I dumped a dead body, which we know from that episode. And then you could say that like the plastic surgery was the fake one, right? And so that would leave couch casting, the sticks, and then the I killed someone, I should say. So that would sort of mean that if it's true that the sticks were a lie, that would mean that the couch casting and the I killed someone belongs to Mitsuya, okay? So now let's watch the rest of it, okay? Because she could be lying about the sticks, but I don't know. Oh, man. Right, one of those must be true, is what they're saying. So they're gonna pin it on Rui, that Rui was telling the truth about one of them. Is this man not gonna go to the police with this, by the way? Like the audio drama guy? Damn. Okay. I'm also gonna read the transcript for this because I'm not sure who's saying what. For real? Her voice. Fuck, what? Her voice to do what? A wiretap? Oh. Oh, they're finding out about this, the website. That's what I'm saying. Damn. Damn. So they're finding out about the audio drama website. So isn't this bad? By the way, Mitsuya, you remember when we played that game where we shared our secrets? I've been thinking about it a lot since then, and I've become kind of freaked out, right? So Ichimura seems to think that it's Rui that, like, did it, right? And so, her lie was the sticks. At least she says that, right? I wrote, I'm married. So wait. So it's switched. Mitsuya wrote the marriage one. I guess it doesn't matter. Wait, no, it does matter. Because I thought that the marriage one was Ichimura. No, but I guess it doesn't matter. I guess it doesn't matter which one did which. Because then, like, the truths for Mitsuya would still be the couch casting and the I killed someone. And then the truths for Ichimura would still be the bad membering the group on the internet and the sugar daddy. It doesn't really matter if it was switched around. It seemed like that Ichimura, okay, so Ichimura just made shit up. Okay, so Mitsuya wrote the marriage one. Okay, well, yeah, then that's fine. That's still fine. That all works. So then the mom calls, I guess, and says that she heard her daughter's voice on a wiretap, like, website or something. All right, everybody, let us get into the review. And this episode was literally insane. I can't believe that I got so much stuff right, too. But, like, I feel like that's very telling of a very tight story, right? Like, I don't think that a twist should necessarily surprise you. Like, you should be shocked but not surprised, if that makes sense. Like, shocked that it came true, but not surprised as in that it came out of nowhere. And I feel like that's very important. Like, that's a very important distinction, right? And so what I love about Odd Taxi is, yes, like, this was shocking, but it didn't come out of nowhere. Like, you could see from the very beginning, like, the things were there. You know what I mean? Because I had that theory. Do you guys remember the episode where Imai said that Mitsuya's dancing was sloppy? That's where I was like, she is not Mitsuya, you know what I mean? She's not the original girl. Like, I talked about that all the way back then. I think that was episode 2 or episode 3, right? And so the signs, guys, the signs were there, and that made me so happy. So here we have Rui, and she's basically explaining, you know, like, I've hated losing more than other people as a child. Right, my report card was like, oh yes, like I have like vitality, ambition, all of that sort of stuff. However, we can't avoid losing in life. Academics, athletics, and the arts, there are limits to all our abilities, right? And so basically, like, Rui is giving all of this backstory as kind of two things, right? Like, first of all, it's a fake out, right? You know what I mean? We're supposed to think that she killed her because this opens with, you know, I was always ambitious, and you may think, oh, she's ambitious, so clearly she killed Mitsuya, right? And she was planning to, but she didn't, right? And so that's like the important like nuance of that. And there was always someone better than me, except in looks. And so basically what she's saying is that, yes, there's always been someone better than me, but I'm hot shit. You know what I mean? Like, I've always been pretty. I've always been beautiful. And that's like not the most important part of being an idol, but that's very important for being an idol. And so that's what kind of made her like the center, if that makes sense. She knew that she had other talents, but there were a limit to her talents in that area, but nobody surpassed her in looks. That's basically like her mentality, or like the preface, if you want to call it that. At 16 years old, I auditioned to become an idol. It was the only time my talent would ever be utilized. And so she's basically saying like, hey, like, you know, my talent of looking beautiful, right? Like my like talent of looks, right? Like this is the only time where my looks will be as good as they are, I guess. You know, she's youthful. She's, you know what? She's, I don't think 16 actually, like, you know what I mean? We were actually having a conversation about it this weekend, but I don't think I ever felt pretty, like actually pretty or beautiful until like prom, you know what I mean? Until like that area of my life. Now every day I'm like, oh, gorgeous, you know? But like, I don't don't think that I felt pretty around that time. Maybe that's just like dependent on everybody, you know what I mean? Obviously, like everybody matures differently, I guess you could say. And I don't mean that in like a weird way, like just genuinely, right? Like we all, you know, some people wake up one day and they like have a full beard and stuff or something like that, you know what I mean? And that person may feel differently about themselves and their appearance than somebody of the same age who hasn't grown a beard yet, let's just say, right? Because like one may see themselves as like, oh, well, I'm more mature and handsome now or something like that. But anyway, I don't think 16, but I definitely do feel like as a 21-year-old now, I'm like, okay, well, I am still like a fountain of youth. Like this is probably the prettiest I will ever be in my life, is going to be like probably from, I guess, like that like 19 age to like, I don't know, when will I stop being pretty, guys? You tell me, right? That's not a trap at all. You tell me, right? No. Anyway, but you guys understand what I mean? I don't think that 16 is the only time. Well, that's when she auditioned, but she debuted when she was 18, right? And so anyway, I don't think that this is the only time in your life that you're beautiful is what I'm saying. I don't think that this is the only time, but she could have meant like not literally 16, but the range of youth, if that makes sense. Anyway, that's like not important, but she's basically saying like, hey, like this is the only time in my life where I can be an idol. And I do kind of think like that is kind of true, right? Like to some extent, I always think about that with companies that I want to work for, because I want to work, I'm not going to say like what companies and stuff, but I want to work for companies that hire performers, right? Because I don't know if you guys know, but I also sing. Little Calxiyn sings plug in there, okay? I have a singing channel if you guys want to go like look and see what I've been doing. Don't know what's on there like as of the moment, because I'm pre-recording very much in advance, but you know, like those companies, they hire performers, and you could say that those performers are going to play characters that look relatively young. And so I understand that you will eventually age out of something like that, right? That you will age out, and there are roles for older people, obviously, but it's almost like, okay, so this is a better example, right? My sister is a dancer, and that definitely like has a time limit because there's only so much your body can take. It's like people say like you can't be like Olympic level or whatever at like 40 or 50 or something, because a lot of people retire before they're 40 or 50, you know, just because like of the strain that it takes on your body. Like you have to do these things like dancing or sports or whatever. Like if you want to go to the Olympics or like, you know, you want to do this or that, like you need to do it while your body is young, basically. That we all have kind of like a biological clock for certain things. And I think that very much so, if you're going to be a performer, appearance does have a certain amount of factor in that. I would say it's more so energy a lot of the time, right? Or like what your body is able to take. Like obviously as we get older, our muscles get weaker and stuff like that, right? And so, you know, there's a time limit on being a performer, but then after you're done being a performer, you can also like teach and things like that, right? Or I don't want to say done as in like, oh man, like, you know, when you're 30, that's it, right? Like obviously you can do like acting and different things like that, but I just mean specifically for this idol culture where you have to sing and you have to dance and you gotta look cute, right? And all of that sort of thing. And like the stuff that I'm involved in as well, to like an extent where it's basically the same thing. You gotta sing, you gotta dance, you gotta look young, right? Or you gotta look youthful in order to play certain characters and things like that. And so yeah, I definitely understand, right, what she's basically saying. This was a bit more of a tangent than I wanted, but anyway, we basically see that this is the real Mitsuya, okay? This is legit Mitsuya right here. So this was original Mitsuya. I'm sure you'll pass. After all, you're exceptionally cute, right? So that's basically like what she's saying is like, hey, I'm sure you'll pass. You're like, you know, perfect. You're cute. And that's like what they're looking for, right? But then Rui's thinking like, but she's been practicing ballet and gymnastics and all of that sort of stuff, right? She's on the track team at the same time. So obviously she's very not only versatile, but she has like ambition. She has motivation. She has drive. She does gymnastics, ballet, and track. And her father was a prominent performer in a traditional performing art, right? And so that's a first hint that it was the man, that it was the eraser man. I can't remember what his name, Don Ranku, right? And that was the theory that I had, I think last episode, or the episode before. I was like, wait, like what if Don Ranku is the guy and Boss's friend? Oh my God, and that made me so happy. I feel so validated, oh my God. Oh, that made me happy. Anyway, that exposure to good taste meant she had a discerning eye. I don't know what the meaning of this is. I don't know what this is supposed to be, but if somebody knows, like, let me know. She was nothing like me. she was accustomed to being in front of an audience. She was experienced, right? And so she was basically thinking like, I can get by on my good looks, but Mitsuya has worked hard. She has the dancing ability. She's, professional. Like, she knows how to act in front of an audience, right? And so I think that she felt threatened from the very beginning to a certain extent, right? Of her, like, talent. She knew defeat. She didn't fear defeat, right? And so that was the thing. I feel like that Rui hadn't known defeat yet, if that makes sense. Like, she hadn't been told no yet until the producer came and wanted to put Mitsuya in the center, which is important, right? And so she passes and then she's gonna be in the center, right? They want Rui to be in the center. And so she's basically saying, hey, like, Mitsuya was all this and I was a little worried, but despite that, I still got in, right? And so everything was working out for me until I realized that, like, I was told no for the first time. Anyway, we get introduced to Yamamoto, right? And then we see the three. And so we see original Mitsuya, Shiho, and then obviously Rui, right? As expected, as expected, because we know that, right? Yamamoto announced that I'd be the center, and you see her kind of look at her like, yeah, fuck you, for all your ballet and your cultured taste and everything, I'm the center, ha ha ha. Like, I feel like that Rui felt kind of like vindicated in that, because it's like, you may be good, Mitsuya, but I still had my good looks, like you said, right? So I feel like that's supposed to be the vibe with that. Day after day, we attended lessons while also attending school, right? Because they're 16 at this point. They haven't graduated yet. For the first time in my life, I had to work hard. And so again, right, like, Rui has had everything kind of like handed to her. Oh, and that fits in with the audio drama too. Like the one where it's like, oh, Rui, like, you couldn't work at a Starbucks, right? Where Yamamoto was like criticizing her and everything. Oh, that makes so much more sense now. Cause it's like, oh yeah, I had my good looks. I wasn't really talented in anything else, but because of my good looks, like, everything was handed to me. Like, that's sort of the vibe, right? And I got to be in the center. So like, no matter how hard Mitsuya worked, like, she worked hard and that's great. She's a good dancer. That's great. But I am my good looks, right? But now she's working hard for the first time. Meanwhile, you see all of them are on the floor except for her. Like, she's breaking a sweat, but she's used to the hard work, basically, right? Anyway, we continue on. It made me angry, right? And so she's mad, like, now she's big mad, you know what I mean? Because she's like, oh man, like, Mitsuya is better than me, despite me being the center and me being cute and whatever, right? I was already 18 then, I was impatient, right? So she's basically now saying like, hey, like, we gotta debut, man, while there's still time, while I'm still young and everything, right? And I'm just like, as a 21-year-old now, who's almost gonna turn 22 soon, I'm just like, don't make me think that, you know what I mean? Especially because I've lost like 2 years of my life to the pandemic. Don't make me think I'm losing my youth, you know what I'm saying? And so anyway, then we see, I guess, her first run-in with, like, Baba and everything, right? And so, they were basically, like, doing, I don't want to say a tour per se, but they were, going on talk shows, so to speak, you could say. Also, it's funny that Mitsuya took out her earring, I guess, like, when she was dancing and everything. I don't know. I don't think that's important, but, I was just thinking about it. I thought they must be losers accustomed to defeat, right? So she's talking about the comedy group. On my way home from an event, I ran into Baba on the train. I became increasingly annoyed with this unsuccessful comedian. Like, just look at her face, bro. Anyway, and then she says, I thought I'd never see him again, so I said to him, doesn't it frustrate you? You're working tawdry events with unknown idols. So I think it's like lowly, right? Like, you're doing like, it's not great. Like, basically like almost meaningless events, right? How does it feel to see your contemporaries and juniors achieve success before you? And so I think that that's very interesting, because it's like, oh yeah, my partner says the exact same thing, right? Like, because obviously I doubt that Baba was thinking that, but obviously the other guy in the comedy duo, whose name I am like blanking on for some reason, he has that same like fire and drive almost that like Rui does. You know what I mean? And she's like, doesn't everyone think that, right, about you guys? At first it frustrated me, but I've given up. Life is way easier now. So that's interesting, because you could argue, right, that Baba has the same attitude as Mitsuya, is that he knows defeat because they failed failed, but he doesn't fear defeat anymore. He's just given up, right? Like, he's not scared of failing. He's just like, I'll like go with the flow. And so I feel like it's almost a case of like, Baba is on this end, whereas Mitsuya, real Mitsuya, was on this end, right? Like, Mitsuya didn't fear defeat or knew failure and didn't fear failure anymore. And so that meant that she could go for things, right? Because like, it's almost like, what's the worst that can happen, right? Like, I have experienced failure before, so I will not be afraid to keep trying until I win, right? That kind of made her more resolved. Or I feel like with Baba, he's kind of like, I know failure, so it just be like that sometimes. It doesn't make him more resolved to continue. It's just like, that's the way it is. So, you know, I'll just keep doing my thing. So who cares if we fail, right? I know failure. I deal with failure all the time. So it's almost like they're the opposite of each other. Whereas Rui is still someone that hasn't experienced failure yet, just like she didn't experience hard work until now. So I feel like that's a very fascinating thing, is that Baba almost has the opposite attitude of Mitsuya, but it serves like functionally the same purpose, that he is not like worried, I guess, worried about failing. Because I feel like that's like the biggest thing. Like, if you are worried about failing or looking silly and stuff, like that can really hurt you in the case of like an audition, let's just pretend. Like, the person that goes to an audition not afraid to fail, right? Because they've experienced getting rejected before, and so they know that that's just, you know, that's just how it goes sometimes, right? And so they don't get nervous for that reason. That's kind of the person that I think is like more confident and may like get the job better. Whereas I have been continuously rejected and I still get nervous every single time. You know what I mean? I gotta work on it, I guess. Or I'm afraid of like self-conscious, I guess. Like, I'm afraid of like looking silly or things like that, right? And so I feel like that, like, that's what not fearing failure means. It's like, I know failure. I still fear failure. I fear failure every time, you know what I mean? But like, that's something that you have to let go of. You have to stop fearing failure. And so I feel like that Mitsuya stopped in a way that's different from Baba, but it's still the same, whereas Rui never stopped fearing failure. I thought that mentality must mean a person was finished, but I also thought that it would be easier if I could be that way too, right? And so that's the thing, is that like, Baba, I think, is, yes, like, that's not a great mentality, but at the same time, has Baba now not achieved success? Because he has. He's achieved more success, actually, than his partner, kind of accidentally, because, like, you know, he's wanted to quit, I guess, like, quit doing comedy, and he's happy, like, just pivoting onto something else, right? And not really, like, thinking about it too much. So couldn't you argue that Baba is now successful because his mentality is so different from his partner? Not Rui, his partner, his comedy partner, right? So that's interesting. And so then he sees like, oh, like Baba's like so nice, so kind, right? Like Rui sees that like he gives up the seat for, you know, this old lady, like for whatever reason, we exchanged contact information. And I thought that was cute. That's when it was decided that we'd make our major debut, right? And so then they're all basically like sitting, eating ice cream, you know, very like Kingdom Hearts vibes for some reason. Shiho says it's like a dream, right? Why did the two of you want to become idols? And so Shiho goes on to explain the bath thing again. She basically wants money, right? I see, better work hard then. And then Mitsuya said that she joined to make some memories, right? And I think that's very fascinating, right? Because she's not even focused on success, right? Like you could say that Shiho wants money, whereas Rui wants fame, right? And with fame comes money, but it's more like, I don't know, it's kind of different, right? Like Rui wants to be famous, I think, to some extent, right? She has something to prove, you know, she wants to be famous, whereas Mitsuya has no desire for money or fame. It's almost like going to an audition and being like, oh, I just auditioned for fun. I just auditioned to make some memories, you know what I mean? It's not that you don't want it, but that's a very interesting mentality that I've encountered a lot, because you have people that are like, well, this is my dream. I want to work here. I want to audition for this. This is like, you know what I mean? This is my one life goal. And then you have other people that are like, I just came here for a free dance class, right? Some people treat auditions that way, or sometimes, you know, I want to be here because I think it would be a memorable experience, which I still think is good. Like, I don't think this is a bad mentality. I think that's actually like, you know, it's good to sort of frame it that way, right? That this is, you know, it would just be an experience like any other. It'd be an amazing experience, a memorable experience, but don't put it on too high of a pedestal that like, you must do that, I must do this one thing to make my dreams come true, like type of thing like that. You know what I mean? And so I think that that's actually a very I don't know, like a very humble reason, right? Like that she wanted to join just to like make memories like with these two girls almost. Because that's something I was thinking too, is like this is a very like, you know, tight-knit like sisterhood thing. Like I think the reason why I like the idea of like being an idol so much, or like something like a content house. Most content house are not good, by the way, but like, you know, I imagine a content house, I guess, with like other people, is because there's something about that that's almost like a family, right? A sisterhood, a this or a that, right? Like say the content house, for example, right? Because I think that we've talked about the idol stuff enough, right? Like with the idols, I will say, like you're a group of girls, you're on tour together, you're performing together, right? You're, you know, sharing your deepest secrets together. Like it's very romanticized, I guess, in that way, to like be an idol, right? And I find that like very interesting, and I totally just like see the appeal of that, like wanting to be around all these other girls, and then like you're like a part of like, again, like a sisterhood type thing. And I think even with, because I've been watching Hololive, I don't know when you guys will see this, but I've been watching like Hololive stuff, and I think that like it's that, but then like being a content creator, and I sort of like idolize that as well, like this idea of like, oh, you know, it's a bunch of girls that are content creators and that are playing games together, because like even though the space has made like very many strides, I guess, to being more inclusive towards girls, I have a very hard time like finding other girls to make content with, or other girls that are YouTubers, you know? And so that's not to say they don't exist, but you know, it can be rough out here, right? So the idea of like, oh, they're idols, but they're also like a group of like girl content creators, and they all hang out with each other and they all play games. That's a very romantic idea, I guess, right? And so that can be like very like, I don't know, almost like inspiring, right? So when she says, oh yeah, I just joined to make some memories, I'm like, yeah, like, you know what I mean? Like that's so cute, you know, like that's like so cool, because yeah, like there is genuinely like a lot that you could say about like this sort of like group like this, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Where I feel like that Rui, right, is a bit different. Like she's doing it like for her own ambition, and that's not wrong, but you know what I mean? I don't know. Like it's just, she has a very like narrow, I think, view of the group. But then she goes on to say, I just kind of joined to make some memories for the shits and giggles, maybe you could say, but I thought we may be able to achieve something amazing once I met you. So then they realize that Rui actually like has the ambition to actually take us to the top. And so that's like actually, you know, now she's like, oh, okay, we could achieve something amazing actually, right? Like it's not just, you know, for the shits and giggles, right? We'll have to work hard to make sure we don't hold you back, right? Because she's like the one with all the ambition. We'd all rise up together, we all win together. I thought it sounded all right. We had a recording session coming up soon, so morale was high, and then they were all like practicing. That's when a producer who had come to watch our lessons said it, right? So the producer said, let's make this girl the center, talking about Mitsuya. And you actually see Mitsuya looks pretty panicked, because she knows that this is not going to be a good memory, that this is not going to be like, you know, girlhood, sisterhood vibes, right? Because like this is going to cause tension, this is going to cause heartbreak, this is going to cause fights, this isn't exactly like for the memories, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's not good. Anyway, she goes on to say that she asked Mitsuya to meet her, right? And so it seems like it's setting up the fact like, oh, well, clearly Rui did it, but she didn't, right? I was about to make a lame request. I didn't want anyone to see us. I can try to make excuses for myself, but I think my desire to kill her was already growing, right? She was basically saying like, hey, I was gonna request her to step down from being the center, and then if she said no, I'd kill her. That's basically what Rui said, right? And so she goes to see Mitsuya, but Mitsuya is already dead, right? And so that's like the big like twist of this episode, is you think that it's Rui, but it subverts it. It wasn't Rui at all. Mitsuya was already dead, right? And so see, why is Yamamoto here like this? You know, I think that Yamamoto knew something was up somehow, especially because like we think that because of the audio drama, I think I explained this in my audio drama part, but I was basically saying how like somebody was telling the truth about the couch casting, and then new Mitsuya says she wouldn't leave Yamamoto alone. So I wonder if she did this and Yamamoto like knew, you know what I mean? Anyway, Rui tells him everything, right, that, you know, I was gonna kill her, but I didn't do it, basically, right? Who killed her then, right? And I think it was fake Mitsuya, basically. Like, that's what I think happened. It was the girl that they got to replace Mitsuya, because she was told that she was, like, fourth, right? So she was like, hey, I'll just kill the girl that looks like me. I was their fourth choice, so, you know, delete one, I'll be the third. Anyway, so Rui did meet Yano and the other guy. Talk about gross, man. I don't like this at all. I might have grown up on the streets, but corpses make my skin crawl, right? And so then he starts taking pictures, I'm assuming, like, for blackmail. Like, that's what they have on Yamamoto. Looks like she was bludgeoned, then it seems like she was choked. And so then they basically, that's how I think I croaked, right? So I think that this basically means, like, the Taylor suit thing means, like, hey, you know, as a gangster, you know, I've seen a lot of death, so I would say that's how I think that she croaked, right? And so then they basically go and get rid of her body, because I think that, like, some people may be like, oh, but why didn't they call the police, right? Like, why didn't they just say that, like, Rui didn't do it, they just found her dead there? Well, one, right, the family is, like, famous and stuff, so that was part of their motivation. Two, that would be a very dark cloud and, like, scandal on an idol group that hasn't even debuted yet, right? And so that's the whole thing, is that, like, Yamamoto wanted to keep his dream alive so badly that he was willing to basically, like, cover up the murder to do it, is the implication. You could also argue that, like, it would always be talked about at every Q&A, at every concert, right? Like, and there would probably be, like, constant online gossip, even if Rui didn't do it, and, like, Shiho obviously didn't do it, right? Like, I think that fake Mitsuya did it, but let's just pretend that she didn't either, right? Because you'll understand in a second. So say none of the girls did it, let's just pretend. That would not stop people online from gossiping about it and saying that one of them did do it. 100%. You know what I mean? Like, say it was, I don't know, say it was Yamamoto who did it, let's just pretend, right? Like, say it was him. I don't think it was, but let's say it was, right? There would still be online gossip about, like, oh, do you guys think that Rui was the one that did it, right? Like, you know what I mean? And so they would never be able to escape it. They would need to go into, like, witness protection, change their name, be a different idol group, or, like, not at all. You know what I mean? So I think that that's the problem. That's why they got rid of the body, is because they wanted the group to go on so bad, and they knew that if they basically exposed that this had happened, the group would be plagued by scandal. They would never debut, especially because, like, idol culture in Japan is especially very strict. Like, forget about murdering someone. If a girl in a group has a boyfriend, it's literally, like, the end of the world. You know what I mean? Like, literally, right? That's, like, kind of how the culture is in some places. I'm not saying that every idol agency is like that, not every group is like that, right? But, like, for a long time, that was sort of, like, the whole thing. Like, those were, like, the scandals, right? And so imagine, like, literal murder, right? If having a boyfriend is enough, right? You know what I mean? Is enough to get you blacklisted or canned or something, right? Whatever you want to call it. So anyway, they basically, like, discarded Mitsuya's body, and then Yano was basically like, oh, you know, what happened to her? Da-da-da-da-da. So here's the question, okay? Yano knows, or does he know, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, Yano has been tasked by the boss to find the missing girl, right? Like, wasn't Dobu and Yano told, or does Yano not know that Dobu has been told by the boss to find the missing classmate, right? And so it kind of seems like at this point, the reason why Yamamoto wanted the dash cam data is so that they could destroy, like, evidence that the taxi driver may had, because Yano wants to make it good with the boss, and he's doing that by taking Dobu's money and giving it to the boss. That's basically what's happening, right? Like, he's, you know, trying to take the robbery from under Dobu's nose to, you know, give the money to the boss and, like, rise up. But, like, if Yano knows that the boss is looking for the missing girl, and Yano was involved in why the girl went missing, or at least not telling him, I think that first of all, the boss would be mad. And then second of all, Yano is purposefully, like, covering it up and not telling the boss, right? And so that's, like, a very interesting, like, layer to all this. Like, does Yano even know? Because Yano may not even know that the boss is looking for the missing girl. And so when he finds that out, he may be like, oh shit, right? Because it's either one of two things he doesn't know, which makes it really, really interesting, because Dobu does know, and the boss does know that they're both looking for the missing girl, but Yano, who was involved with the missing girl, does not know that they're looking for the missing girl. And so when it's revealed that he was hiding it this whole time, it may, like, you know, he may be in the shithole, basically. Or it would also be equally as interesting if he is actively hiding it from the boss, because he knows now, like, oh, well, if I tell the boss that I was involved in the missing girl case, that's not good. So I think that Dobu could totally use that against Yano later, right? Because Yano is already suspected by Dobu to be involved, right? But he doesn't have any evidence yet. So imagine like Dobu basically like going to the boss and being like, hey, funny story, you know Yano? Yeah, I know we just robbed a bank for you, but like, listen, he was involved with the missing girl's disappearance, actually. He covered it up and didn't tell you. Right, like I feel like Yano could be in deep shit, right? And so then, like, the cost for disposing the body. So here's the question. Why does Yamamoto even know these guys? Why does he know someone? You know what I mean? Like, was he always part of the gang? Or, like, how did he know? You know what I mean? Because it's almost phrased like he called the gang and this was the gang's price. Not that Mystery Kiss was always involved with them to begin with. You know what I mean? So I'm just like, how did Yamamoto just call the Yakuza? Like, he must have been involved to begin with, right? That's the only thing that makes sense. Or, like, I guess he could have been friends with Yano and just knew, you know? Something like that. And so the cost was half of the profits of Mystery Kiss, and then also like to use the members however they please to run the Badger games, I guess you could say, right? And so yeah, that was like the whole thing. And then several days later, Yamamoto was like, hey, Sakura will be the replacement, all right? Right, and she looks exactly, to a degree, she looks exactly like Mitsuya. So this is interesting. I don't think that they showed this to begin with. Like, I don't think that we ever saw Mitsuya's face. I think that we only saw the back of her head in different scenes, but actually Mitsuya's eyes were blue. Sakura's eyes are green. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's a very subtle green, but like it's very like slight, if that makes sense, right? Like if you look back at the scenes where she like was being like pointed at and stuff by the producer, like her eyes are actually a different color. Her eyes are green, which I think is like very fascinating, right? Because that's just, again, like we don't know what she actually looks like because this is like, how do you say, this is Odokawa vision, let's just call it, right? This is Odokawa vision. So we don't really know what she looks like, but you could assume that they look very similar, but there are differences between them, even their face shape sometimes, even like their height a little bit, stuff like that, right? And so then we see that she wasn't a very good dancer, right? And so that's the other thing, is her dancing got sloppy. And so I love that. Like, I love how that all connected to each other. You know what I mean? And so now, like, Rui kind of has regrets, right? Because, like, yes, she was gonna go kill Mitsuya, but then she realized that she actually did need Mitsuya, that she could not carry the group by herself. Because I feel like that's like a tough pill for Rui to swallow, basically, is that she is sort of like, oh, well, you know, like, I can get by on my cuteness, da-da-da-da-da. We don't need Mitsuya, right? Like, I should be the center. If Mitsuya won't step down, I'll kill her. But then she realized that, like, when Mitsuya died, even though Rui didn't do it, they did need Mitsuya, and Mitsuya was maybe worthy of being the center after all, based on her replacement and how the success and the vibe of the group has changed without the real Mitsuya, right? And so I think that's, like, very interesting. You know what I mean? Like, that's a very interesting kind of, I don't want to say concept per se, but like that's an interesting nuance, I guess, is that Rui wanted to get rid of Mitsuya, but now seeing the reality where Mitsuya was gotten rid of, even if not by her own hand, she realized that actually if I killed Mitsuya, we would have been fucked, right? We would have been so fucked. Like, Mitsuya maybe should have been the center and not died, and our group would have gotten success, right? When I failed this audition, I refused to accept it, right? So again, she did it, especially because I explained the process of elimination with the 2 truths and the lie thingy, right? So yeah, she totally did it. I went to speak directly with Yamamoto, again, the couch casting type thing. Let me in, I said, right? That's impressive. I mean, when I failed, they told me I was their 4th choice. Isn't that frustrating? I almost made it. I was so close. So what do? You just kill one of the girls and then you get let in, right? You didn't think about auditioning somewhere else. After all, I heard you had passed. I knew you'd be famous, right? And so that's the interesting thing, is that like Mitsuya saw potential in Rui and that they could achieve something great because of Rui. But now it's almost like that this girl, like Sakura, does not have the same credentials to back it up, right? And so it's kind of like, okay, so like Mitsuya had said earlier, I think we can achieve great things together. I knew that when I saw you, Rui, right? And so I feel like that was fine because the group could basically like be held up also by Mitsuya's dance skills. You know, like Rui has her dancing, or sorry, not Rui. Mitsuya has her dancing, Rui has her looks. I don't know what Shiho's talent is exactly, but like fine, you know what I mean? Whatever. That's like kind of like the concept, right? But like she looked at Rui and thought the same thing, not realizing that Rui's looks needed to be held up by talents from the rest of the group. And I don't think Mitsuya is, or I guess Sakura is as talented as Mitsuya. And so she just wants to be famous. She just wants fame and money. And now she'll be infamous, right? I'm from a single parent home. I want to get famous so my mom can take it easy, right? And so that's sort of interesting because that humanizes her a little bit. Like, even though she's a murderer, right? Like, she wanted to do this for her mom, and she knew that if she failed the audition, she would, like, lose her chance because Rui would become famous, right? And so she was like, well, I need to be with the famous girl so I can rise up and, like, you know, get my mom security, I guess you could say. Something like that. Like, that was her mentality. So they do try to like humanize her a little bit in that way, because that makes it seem like she killed Mitsuya because she knew that like Rui was on the famous train and the train was leaving and there were only 3 tickets, sort of thing, for the train, you know, for this theoretical train. I don't have any strengths, you know, right? And so I'm just like, yeah, we do know, sis, you know what I mean? Like, that's why we needed the real Mitsuya. And so I feel like that's interesting though, because I feel like Rui can relate to that, because Rui has no strengths outside of being pretty in a way, right? But seeing the idols on TV cheered me up, right? And so she's basically saying like, oh, you know, I wish I could disappear sometimes, but I want, you know, I want to be an idol because the idols like cheered me up and everything, right? And so then they basically debut, right? They received passing marks, but I wasn't satisfied. I tasted defeat. We could have done better. So now we see that Rui has actually failed now, but I think she still fears failure a little bit. It's like, it's, you know, like, oh, you know, she knew defeat, but she didn't fear defeat. Rui knew defeat, but I think she was scared of defeat at this point. And see, she keeps thinking about Mitsuya. If Mitsuya were here, right? I couldn't escape the thought either. And that's when the news broke that the high school girl goes missing. Yamamoto spoke with Mitsuya's family and they submitted a missing persons report to the police. Since her father was famous, they made sure her name and the fact she was an idol wasn't reported, right? And so if this was any other girl, you know, this would have been real bad, right? Because like they're only doing this because of like, you know, Don Ranku's like reputation and stuff. That day, Mitsuya got into a taxi and now she's missing. Anyway, so they cooperate with the police. It's not really like a big deal, except the problem was the taxi she took back then. I was afraid of what the driver may say. She may have been recorded by his dash cam, right? And so that was the whole thing, right? Is that like, oh, you know, like the driver may be like, oh yeah, she was there to meet a friend, Rui. And so even if Rui didn't do it, if the driver remembered that that's what she said, like that could have been like the whole thing, you know what I mean? That she could have been like pinned for it, right? It was imperative that we identify the taxi, and that was a job for Yano, basically. So that is why they have been doing this, and then we see the scene from, I think, episode 2 again, like the phone call and everything. So then in order to blackmail Don Ranku, they found the connection between Boss and then Don Ranku, basically. And they used that to basically like retract the missing persons report, you know, to like pressure him into being like, hey, you know, your daughter may be missing, but you know, you have connections to a criminal, so, you know, right? Like that's basically the mentality, right? Becoming an idol was Yuki Mitsuya's dream. However, concerned about the connection between her father and a criminal organization, she believed that at that rate she couldn't become an idol and decided to run away from home. And so this is when the Don Ranku reveal happened, and I was like, yeah, let's go, right? So in a lot of ways, this is pretty like underhanded, you know what I mean? Like they basically blackmailed the dad into retracting the missing persons report, because it's like, you know, we could go to the police with this news and then it'll be a scandal or something like that, you know, could have been the whole thing. But anyway, they retract the missing persons report like because of that, and that's why that Don Ranku has the boss now looking for his daughter. But see, doesn't Yano know that? Like, I don't think that Yano was told that, you know what I mean? Because like, you know, he's involved in all this. Like the boss is gonna be pissed at Yano if he ever finds out that Yano was involved in like, you know, manipulating the boss like that and everything. Did anybody see us? What if someone already knows, right? So Rui basically talks about how she's been paranoid, she couldn't sleep, or she wanted to turn back time, because I think that she feels guilty because the mentality is, if I never asked Mitsuya to come into the studio, she would have never died. Because the only reason she died is because she was there. If she had stayed home that day, she would still be alive. So Rui feels like a lot of guilt about that, I think. Perhaps I'd repeat the cycle for the rest of my life, right? But then, you know, Baba is basically her only, like, comfort at this point, right? And she says that he's her only comfort, right? And so we do kind of get like an idea of her not being able to sleep very well, because I think that Baba calls when it's late and he's like, oh, I hope I didn't wake you. And then she's just like, no, you didn't wake me, you know? And so, yeah, like she's just been awake all the time, right? I wanted to make him happy, right? And so in a lot of ways, though, he is kind of like a pet. You know what I mean, right? It was okay if I lost. Of course, it was okay if I won too. And so, see, this is kind of growth, though, right? I hated to lose, and his way of living permitted that, right? And so it's like she hated to lose, but now it didn't matter because, like, Baba was not, like, pressuring her to, like, win or anything, right? But then, obviously, they reveal that Mitsuya was the girl that went missing and everything. See, look at how blue her eyes are, whereas Sakura, her eyes are green, right? And so, like, that's the whole thing. And so then Baba's just like, bro, did you know about this? You know what I mean? Like, oh, yeah, right? And so anyway, we see, like, Christmas tree reminding us that, like, it's Christmas. Things are a moving, if you want to call it that. And so what's interesting about what what Odokawa says. What's interesting about what Odokawa says is, like, he says something about, like, oh, it's not her, right? And so I think that what he means is, and does he say that in this episode? If he does, I'll get to it. If he doesn't, remind me and we'll come back to it, okay? I love how I'm like, oh, you guys remind me, right? Because you can talk to me through the screen, right? Anyway. And so, yeah, they basically start talking about the body being found. Did you see the news? Lucky us, like, the fewer guys Yano has, it'll be easier for us. And then Odokawa says that that's a problem because he told Yano to prompt them to check another case, and now, sorry, not Yano. He told Yamamoto to check another case, and now Yamamoto's like, I'm not going. Bye, right? Right, there is a problem. Mitsuya's body was found near Yano's hideout. They probably moved, and that's, like, another, like, wrench in the thing, right? So not only is Yamamoto not there to be like, hey, like, open the suitcase, right? Like, open another one. Like, not only is that not happening, but also they probably moved their hideout. So everything is falling apart. So yeah, Odokawa decides to basically call Yamamoto. You're not going with Yano's crew today, you know? I don't have time for that right now. You know that, right? Can I go now? I have a press conference to attend. I want to confirm one thing. What? The Yuki Mitsuya in the photo shown on the news and the Yuki Mitsuya I drove in my taxi are different people, right? Are you sure you're not confused? I drove you guys together. The girl who likes fried chicken, that reminded me. The girl I drove on October 4th was, and then Yamamoto hangs up, right? So here's what I think that Odokawa is saying. I remember the girl that I drove in the taxi with you was the girl that I drove in October. So I think that that's basically what he's saying, right? Because again, look at her eyes. Her eyes are different. So I think what Odokawa was basically saying in, like, plain English, okay, is he's basically saying, I saw the girl on the news. I saw Yuki Mitsuya on the news. And that's not the girl that I drove in my taxi. I did not drive Yuki Mitsuya to the office. Let's just call it the office. I don't know what it is. I actually drove Sakura to the office. And that's why Yamamoto's like, are you sure you're not confused, right? And so he's like, no, I drove the girl that I remember, like, oh, you know that one time where I drove the girl who likes the fried chicken? That reminded me, on October 4th, the girl I drove was ... implies that was the girl I drove. I drove the girl who likes fried chicken that day. So basically what I think happened is Mitsuya got into a taxi, but it wasn't Odokawa's taxi. It was somebody else's. Meanwhile, it was Sakura who got into Odokawa's taxi because she was going to go kill her, right? And so that was, like, the whole thing, is that the girl he drove that day was not Mitsuya, it was Sakura, and that's, like, the whole key to this puzzle. So the dash cam data is showing that the girl in the back of the taxi was actually Sakura the entire time. And so that's why with Dobu, it's like, oh, do you know that girl? Oh, I'm not sure, like, she's the only one that fits the description, though. Like, that's something that Dobu says, right? And so he now remembers that the girl that Dobu showed him was the fried chicken girl, not the missing girl, I guess you could say. I think that's what we're getting at, is that Odokawa drove the murderer, I think is what they're getting at. He never drove the missing girl at all. So then he tries to call Daimon, and Daimon does not answer either. And so yeah, they basically take him to, like, you know, fuck knows where. They basically take Imai somewhere, and Imai says, I don't care anymore, the concert's been canceled, they're not releasing their CD, right? Because Imai basically said, like, I can do anything, like, if I can support Mystery Kiss, and now Imai's, like, totally disillusioned. He can't believe that Mitsuya's dead. I thought she was such a good dancer, right? Now that I think about it, the Yuki Mitsuya wearing the mask was a different person, right? He remembers that she wasn't that good at dancing, that she was different after all, right? And so then Yano's like, oh yeah, today's the day Dobu-san goes down, right? But now I'm just like, sir, you got a big storm coming. You know that gif, right? Like, yeah, scraping by on the boss's opinion of me. Like, that's the whole thing, is the boss is not going to be very happy with Yano, right? So I think that's the big twist, right? And so Imai's like, hey, you know, like, can you turn the radio on, right? Like, what do you need, you know? Like, what do you want? Can you turn on the press conference? Like, that's all Imai wants. He just wants to hear the press conference, right? And you see everyone is wearing funeral clothes. And see, this isn't good. The taxi driver remembers Sakura's face. And so see, it seems like that Yamamoto and Rui have basically, like, come to terms at this point that Sakura's the one that did it. Right? Because why else would Sakura be in the taxi? Because it's not like, oh, you know, the taxi driver remembered Mitsuya's face, right? It remembers he remembers Sakura's face. And so it seems like it's pretty clear that Yamamoto and Rui have just accepted the fact that she did it. But they can't do anything about it. They have no proof, they have no evidence, and she could just turn it back on them and said that they did it. You know what I mean? That Rui actually did it instead. And so I feel like that's why they couldn't go with the to the police with that information and everything. And so yeah, you see that her eyes are a different shade. It's so cool. Like, it's so cool to, like, look at it in hindsight. Is there any positive way we can spin it, right? And I'm just like, no. You know what I mean? They kind of do, they kind of try, but I'm sure some of the 5 guys who attended the first concert remember her too, right? So I think that Rui knew when Imai was like, her dancing is getting sloppy, and she was like, oh no, she's just working a couple jobs, you know? She's just really tired today. Like, I think that Rui knew, right? It's just not possible, you're right? But they do come up with kind of a plan. Anyway, and so Yamamoto seems to think of something, and then he kind of, like, you know, he kind of has a plan, right? I promise I'll come back from this too. And so that's weird. You okay? Sorry, I didn't notice. That's kind of weird that Baba's like, you know, I didn't notice if you were upset about the fact that your bandmate was murdered. Like, that was kind of a weird thing for Baba to say, but it was sort of like, I'm not capable of trying hard, okay, but don't push yourself too hard, bye, right? Hey, what are you doing? And so he basically wants to quit. You know, at this point, he's like, you know what, let's just end it here, right? Like, why do we even need to try in the losers bracket? But I think by the end thingy, I don't know what you call it, the preview, I think that they do actually, you know, and so they talk about their jokes, they're disagreeing, right? If we fail here, we're through. You're the one who will be in trouble if we split up, right? So Baba's just like, you know what I mean? He's, I don't know what to call it, but he's, talking shit at this point, I guess you could say, right? Like, you know, he's just like, you're the one in trouble. You need me. I don't need you, right? So Baba said, you used to be funnier. I can't watch you fall apart, right? And so I think that it's like almost like his own jadedness made him fall apart, right? Like, you think that everything popular these days aren't funny. You're the one who's out of touch, right? So I think he's basically saying, like, you know, you are the one who's lagging behind, not me. Like, I understand what appeals to an audience, and that's what it takes to win. So he says, I'm sorry, Shibagaki, let's split up as of today, right? And so I don't think that they're actually going to, but, like, that's very interesting, right? And so I think that that's, like, very indicative, though, of Baba's attitude. He's like, yeah, you know what? Like, I've tasted failure. I can just call it quits now, and it's no skin off my back. It doesn't bother me. But I feel like for him, definitely bothers him. Then we have Gouriki, right? And he sees the truth about Odokawa, right? Married couple found inside car that fell into the sea, possible double suicide, right? And so then we basically find out, like, the truth of everything. And so that brings me to the, like, Odokawa and that scene at the very beginning where it looked like somebody was lying down somewhere, almost like on a couch or something, and then somebody else was, like, with them. Like, I thought that it was, like, maybe it was the body, I guess. Like somebody was like looking over the body with him of his parents, you know, like when the police got there and stuff. But I actually think that maybe what happened is that, like, say Odokawa's dad, let's just pretend, his dad murdered his mom, and then seeing that he like murdered his mom, they got into the car together and drove into the sea. Something like that may have happened, right? So like the murder may have happened at home, and then the other parent, the surviving parent, was like, oh shit, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, if there's no choice now, like, let's just like drive into the sea, right? So they say possible double suicide, but I think it's more likely that maybe based off of Odokawa's flashback, because again, I'm not sure what was in that flashback exactly, but it seemed like almost like somebody, like Odokawa was looking at someone who was standing over someone else. And so that's why I thought, oh man, like the mom killed the dad and then like, you know, like tried to kill them both or something like that. Or like, you know, the mom killed the dad and ran away. Like that was like a very early theory that I had at the beginning, or like that the mom was in prison but the dad was dead. But now I actually think like one of the parents was dead at home, they took the body, they drove into the sea, sort of thing, right? And they took their son with them. Yeah, and so then this is basically Odokawa's parents, right, were found dead inside a car that sunk to the bottom of the sea. Their son, who was in 4th grade, escaped on his own, right? And so this is probably when the synesthesia started. The police are investigating the possibility of a forced double suicide. And so see, that's very interesting, because what would that mean? Like a forced double suicide would mean one of them wanted to do it and then the other one was just like, say like the dad wanted to do it but then the mom was and the son were just like taken almost hostage, right? And so they were looking into the possibility that one of the parents did it on purpose and was like forcing them without a choice. I think that maybe that's the implication. Anyway, then we have the press conference. There isn't really anything to say here other than like, you know, Yamamoto's public relations speak and everything, right? We did everything we could, he says, right? Since Mystery Kiss was set to debut soon, we had another girl audition to take Mitsuya's place and we deceived all of you. Sorry, right? Like that's basically what he says. And so they say, do you have any idea what happened to her? Well, she was underpaid before the group debuted. I believe she could have promoted herself on social media. She may have been close with fans as well. So Yamamoto is basically just throwing stuff out there. It's like, well, she didn't have a lot of money. And so the implication may be that she met up, like, you know, she was close with fans. Maybe she met up with like a crazy fan that was giving her a lot of money, right? And then that crazy fan like killed her or something, right? I feel like he's basically like, you know, something like that could have happened. I don't know, like who knows, right? And it's also possible that the girl, like fake Mitsuya, so Sakura, may have, like, this may be actually true in a way. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what if the whole thing is that Sakura actually was a fan of Mitsuya, right? Because her dad is famous, right? She has been in front of an audience before. And so what if she was like, I want, like, Mitsuya's life, so I will kill her and take her place, sort of thing. Like, you know what I mean? And that's why she didn't mind, like, her being Mitsuya. And so that fan thing could actually be true. She was killed by a fan, right? You know what I mean? And then Sakura was the fan and she wanted that life, the life where, you know, your dad is famous and you don't need to worry about money and you have all this talents. So she wanted to pretend to be like Mitsuya, right? I don't know what she was thinking about the parents, like obviously, but I don't know, like maybe she could manipulate the parents to adopt her too, because there are some fucked up situations where that like actually has you know, happened where, I don't know how to explain it. Not necessarily the murderer, but like people have replaced their child with somebody that looks like similar, and it's a very like codependent type of thing. Like they may adopt a child that looks similar to their like lost child, you know, because they want to like believe in it so bad, or they may accept a lost child even though they know it's not like their actual child has been found, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like there have been situations like that where like a child goes missing and the police are like, okay, well, you know, we found them. I think that this is them anyway. And the parents just like, okay, like, you know, like a long time ago before we had like the technology that we do now. I'm thinking like 30s, 20s, stuff like that. Like you've heard about like true crime where that's actually the case. And so, yeah, anyway. All that being said, I'm thinking that maybe she was killed by a fan. That basically Sakura was a fan of her, wanted her life, so killed her so she could get her life, basically, right? And so I think that that's like very interesting. And so again, more Yamamoto speak. We can't bear to face Don Ranku, right? Because this is basically now revealing that Don Ranku is her dad, right? And now like the girl at the bar is like, ah, shit, right? Because she heard that conversation where the guy asked like, oh, shouldn't your daughter be 18 now? And Don Ranku was like, I guess if she's alive, you know, like he didn't know yet that she was dead, right? You can't be serious. And so now even Odokawa was like, fuck, that was Don Ranku's daughter, bro, right? So I think that maybe he heard that on the radio. I'm not sure. He's like, what is happening, right? Anyway, and so then we have the police guy, basically, right? And so we think, right, that this is Big Daimon, but what if this is Little Daimon pretending to be Big Daimon? Because they do say like, oh, you know, where's your best buddy and your brother? He hasn't come into work for a while. So he looks like he's lying. So I think one of two things may have happened. Like A, he killed his brother, okay? He like tied up his brother. He found out that his brother was like sussing him and basically like got rid of his brother, killed his brother. Two, it's possible that it wasn't Rui that shot Dobu, because I did say like, oh, Rui has, you know, white paws, so maybe it was her if it wasn't Miho, right? And that's what I thought. But now if you kind of look back on it, it could have been Daimon, because Daimon also has white paws, and that would explain how somebody got a gun, right? I don't think Rui has a gun. That would explain like why that person had a gun. So Daimon could feel, I don't know, bad about not catching Dobu or something. Like that could have been like the whole thing. Or maybe like Dobu ended up killing Little Daimon. Who knows, right? It could be like that. Or this is Little Daimon and Big Daimon, I don't know what happened to him. Something happened, right? Something about that, right? And so, yeah, I can't believe my meek little brother is ignoring my calls, right? And so then I'm a little bit worried because maybe Little Daimon feels so guilty for shooting Dobu that he's just like pieced out, you know what I'm saying? Like he's just like, nah, right? So I don't know. And so right now we're on the same side, right? When you put it that way, broadly speaking, we've been on the same side since the beginning. See, that's fascinating because I feel like that could mean that Big Daimon wasn't corrupt at all and he was just pretending. You know what I mean? Like, what if that's foreshadowing? Because I had kind of that idea once, right? And so I wonder if that's him basically saying like, you know, we've been on the same side since the beginning because like, you know, I'm not actually corrupt at all. I've just been like undercover, so to speak, this entire time. And what if the little brother's in on it? You know what I mean? So basically he noticed his brother was acting weird. So he sat down with him and was like, look, I'm not bad. I'm not corrupt. They didn't buy me off. I've actually been undercover this whole time, and I want to take down Dobu and Yano as well, right? Because it's in like their vested interest to, obviously, as police officers, right? Or they've been getting information from Dobu, and so they know that Yano may be involved with the missing girl, and they've just been waiting. And so both brothers were actually good to begin with. That could be a possibility, right? And so then they're basically threatening Imai. You know what will happen if they go off script. We see Dobu waiting in the car. Then we see this last scene with Gouriki asking about Odokawa, right? Can you describe to me what he was like? And so he basically says, like, it seemed like he was rehabilitated. He seemed fine. But the courthouse told us that a benefactor had showed up and he moved to Tokyo. And so, see, I think that that's Don Ranku. And I'm not sure why. I'm not sure how, you know what I mean? But I think that it will be. It's either Don Ranku or it's Boss. I think that it's either or. And so, like, could it be possible that, like, Boss is, that Odokawa's parents were involved with Boss somehow? Like, say it was, like, a trio. You know, like, say it was the dad, like, Odokawa's dad, Don Ranku, and then the Boss. But then, like, something went wrong, and that's why they did the double suicide, because, like, the dad thought that, like, him and his wife were gonna get arrested, or, like, he couldn't face his wife after being, like, revealed that he went into the Yakuza, and, like, they, like, died and stuff, or something, you know what I mean? And then the Boss felt bad, because it's like, man, I left the child orphanless, and that's what pushed Don Ranku to, like, leave. You could say it was like that. Or, like, say Dad, Don Ranku, and Boss were involved, right, as a gang together, but, like, you know, they, like, got into beef with, like, a rival gang, and that rival gang basically killed the dad and the mom and then staged a suicide, right, like, as retaliation for, like, Yakuza activity. So then Don Ranku was like, yeah, I'm leaving, bye, right, you know what I mean? Like, I want to start a family one day, Boss, you know? And then Boss felt bad, so he was the benefactor. I think that somehow the parents must have been involved, right? Because you know what I mean? It could have been like a sleeping with the fishes thing. Like it could have been that like the dad, like Odokawa's dad was part of the Yakuza, and then like a rival gang killed them and made it look like a suicide. And then Odokawa was also like in the car and stuff. Like it could have been like something like that. Like who knows? It could have been anything. But I think it was either the boss or Don Ranku who's the benefactor, right? And I think that I'm leaning towards the boss based off of their conversation in the sauna, right? So he has no memory of the accident, but we see that it's sort of coming back sometimes because he sees, like, he knows that he's scared of the water and he, like, almost sees the bubbles and everything like that. But, like, obviously, it seemed like that they missed out on his synesthesia because now, right, he seemed like, you know, he seemed stable to us, but he also mentions, like, actually, I was rereading the memory notebook and I realized that, like, we kind of missed something, you know, like, I thought he was a strange child. So I think that basically what he's saying is, like, I thought he seemed fine. I thought he was rehabilitated, but recently I read through his memory notebook and realized that actually, like, there is something wrong here, right? Because he says, you know, since that you said you were coming, I read it again. And so that's what I think seemed stable means. It's that he seemed stable, but actually in hindsight, I don't think that he was. And so he's basically saying, hey, like, it's not meant for a general practitioner, okay? Like, we're psychologists. We know what we're doing. It's kind of like, you know, not elitist. I do get it. But, like, you know what I mean? He's kind of like, listen, it's not for general practitioners like you, okay? Like, you know, like, people like us, we have, like, you know, we have more credentials, which is true, but also, like, you know, right? So then he says, I'm not asking to see it because I'm his doctor, and I'm asking to see it because I'm his friend, which I think was just so like, oh, right? Because that's what it's really about, is that he's like scared for his friend and he wants to like help him, right? And so then we get the preview, which is that the heist is happening, right? Who knows like what conversation, you know, like who knows like who's talking right now, like the eating properly thing. It's important to live an orderly life, right? Then we have Odokawa and Dobu. Dobu just smacked Odokawa there. So who knows what's going on, but we see that Baba and them, like, they're both on stage together. So what if, like, he actually does decide to change because of Baba? You know what I mean? He does decide that Baba was kind of right all along. He tries to be more personable. Like, who knows? Like, who knows? I don't know. But I think next episode's gonna be crazy. Oh, yeah. Drive safely and stop making everyone worry about you. I think that that is going to be, like, I think that that is the bar lady maybe talking to Odokawa. Who knows? Sorry, you should establish a family. I think that that's also about, I think that that's also the bar lady talking to Odokawa, and you actually see, right, the giraffe guy has the ballpoint pen right here, which is kind of interesting, because didn't Don Ranku have it? But then he gave it to the bar lady, and then I guess, like, he went to the bar, like, the giraffe guy went to the bar? But no, then it got back with the manager, didn't it? Wait, what? It wasn't the last audio drama about I'll give it to the only girl that hasn't had it yet? And that was Mitsuya? So, did he get it from Mitsuya? Like, I'm so confused. Okay, I need to remember the chronological order, because I swear, because it's been a couple days for me, guys, like, just to be clear. So, I think what happened is, there was the Don Ranku one, because that was last episode's one, but this episode's one, it was to the only girl that hadn't had it yet, right? But then we also saw the conversation between Mitsuya and Shiho about, like, the whole thing, you know what I mean? Like, about that the fact that Rui may have done it in the conversation with the mom. And so what if what happened is that Mitsuya was like, hey, like, I found your website, bro, and I know that you're, like, listening in on our conversations, and that's how we got it back. So, like, Sakura gave it back to Giraffe Guy. I think that that's it. Yeah, so the Don Ranku one must have happened 3 ago, right? Because we had Don Ranku to the bar back to the producer, and Rui suggested to give it to Mitsuya. Mitsuya got the phone call, or I guess I should say Sakura. Sakura got the phone call that, like, hey, somebody is posting your private conversations on the internet. She basically confronted him, and that's how he got the pen, I guess. And he's in the audience, and he seems, like, pretty happy about the comedy stuff. Then we see this guy, right, holding the gun. And so we see Gotcha Guy. Shut up, you're not my dad. We're the same age. Maybe that's Kikihana, or no, it could be Gouriki saying to stop making people worry about him. And he seems, like, very surprised at something. So here's what I'm assuming happened. I'm assuming that Odokawa took the tracker and basically threw it in the bank so that the gotcha guy would think Odokawa was in the bank and then get arrested or something. Like, I could see something like that happening. And then you see like this look on his face. So I think what he's gonna see is that Odokawa has the eraser. That's what I would guess. But otherwise, those are my guesses, is that Odokawa is going to, he said he would use the tracker to his advantage. So I think he's basically going to plant the tracker so the gotcha guy would go there and then get like arrested by the police and stuff. And so I think the look on his face is because he realizes is that like Odokawa like tricked him and now also has the eraser and now he's arrested and like the whole thing like that could definitely be happening. But yeah, I'm just excited to see the heist. I'm excited to see how everything ends. I think we made some really good theories here. So I hope that you guys enjoyed my review. Thank you for attending Calxiyn's Royal Court today, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!